Pamela, I was one of the first responders on scene, and it was a big mess along the coastline. There were people actively drowning, getting pulled out by rip currents. There were people on the base of the shoreline there. Not at first support was there's bystanders doing CPR down below. So there's a lot going on when I first arrived on scene and trying to kind of take in what we need to do to do the rescues. That was the first response. Well, that's what we do. We train all the time for that, obviously. But we have more than a lot of people. It's, okay, we need to get some more resources here, especially on the medical side. So we had 2 lifeguard jet skis coming, 2 rescue boats on scene. We picked up 7 people in the water who were actively drowning. 2 of them were pronounced a little bit later on when they were transported back to the dock. And then just as the numbers started coming in, how many people were actually involved, the number kept on escalating. So we were running out of ambulances, put in a call for greater assistance to bring in more medical attention. So that's what we did. There was a lot of people there, multiple agencies, and the goal is to make rescues, provide people with great patient care and transport as quickly as possible, and then take into account what's going on, what are the dangers, what are the assessments, can you quickly assess someone and move on. All that kind of took place in a pretty quick amount of time. It's a pretty big event, and those happen, I would say, on a weekly basis coming in. So those are the ones that we just know about. Not as dramatic as far as this. They just kind of get spotted and apprehended by Customs and Border Protection. But on this one, we don't really think about. We just want to make the rescue. We want to save people. We don't care where they're from or how much. You want to make the rescue, provide a great service to get them out of harm's way. A lot of people are basically non-swimmers. So you're looking at people who can't swim. They're jumping in the water to try to save themselves, and they don't even know how to swim. So unfortunately, people do die. It does happen. This is probably the biggest event in my 28-year history as a lifeguard. Having so many people in one spot, we do drills on some mass casualties, but having it actually really happen in real life time and assessing it and going, hey, we need a lot of help here. There's a lot of moving parts, and all of a sudden you start getting more and more info that now there's 15, now there's 20. Wait a minute, now it's up to 30 people involved in this as victims. It's pretty tough. So it does take a lot of time, and then assessing all that information and trying to get the resources and talking to all their own rescuers and getting all that coordinated. It's a pretty huge effort. We're just one small part of this giant picture of emergency services. There's multiple agencies there, both for law enforcement and for rescue, and we practice and talk to each other all the time. So we want to provide a good service to everybody.
This was a mass rescue operation that turned into a mass casualty incident. We had about 30 rescues when the vessel broke up on the reef. Lifeguards went out, made 7 water rescues. We had 3 boats out there, 2 personal watercraft out there. We conducted a cliff rescue with our cliff specialty apparatus, and we had 1 major trauma and 3 CPRs, and the majority of the folks that came in were sent off to different hospitals throughout the county. It's a tragedy. It's a tragic event here in San Diego, and probably one of the bigger vessel accidents and bigger calls that we've seen here. Certainly in my 26 years, and certainly in Lieutenant Romero's 28 years, this is probably the worst tragedy.
So a little call came in at 9:56 from a commercial assistance vessel, stating there's a vessel offshore near the surf line that looks like they're going to be in trouble. And so we sent a rescue boat initially as a check on, and then as we kept on getting updates on the Marine Channel 16, that they were getting closer to shore. Only 1 person on board was the initial report. Once we arrived on scene, the the boat had been basically broken apart. A 40-foot cabin cruiser with multiple people on board. The first report from the commercial assistance vessel was 3 or 4 people with PFDs waiting for help. That turned into much more people as we started getting on scene and analyzing the scene. There were people in the water drowning, getting sucked out the rip current there. There was people on shore. And reports were CPR in progress down below with multiple people injured. And then we had 2 jet skis, 3 rescue boats coming. We picked up about 7 people in the water. 2 of them were face down and drowned. And then those were transported over to San Diego Harbor Police Dock. And then once we saw it was going to be a bigger situation with more people, the numbers kept on increasing. We called for more resources to SDFD, more ambulances, and more rescue staff. Total about 30 people were involved in that boat, 3 of which were pronounced deceased. We did rescue about 6 people out of the water, and then Cliff extricated 1 person with our Cliff rescue vehicle.
Now, we understand that there were 4 people in CPR status. 3 have just passed away. What about that 4th victim?
I can't confirm that 4. I know it was 3 people doing CPR, and then those 3 had died.
And can you talk about the other injuries?
They range from just hypothermia, and others just from injuries caused by the breaking of the vessel. I can't confirm how many people had serious injuries, but a wide variety of injuries.
Now, we understand this is anybody. Is anybody still?
That's unknown, so I don't know.
So there could possibly be more people out there.
There's a lot of people on the boat, yeah. So I don't have. There's no manifest on the vessel, so we don't know. Conditions are pretty rough. 5 to 6 feet of surf, windy, cold. The water's around 60 degrees, so you can get hypothermic pretty quickly. And then whether or not they were wearing PFDs or not, some jumped in the water immediately. The boat was on the reef, bouncing back and forth, and then just slowly disintegrated into a bunch of pieces. So there's no boat there. It's all debris. So the actual breaking of the vessel could cause a lot of damage to people as well. The count was 30 people.
30 people, so way overcrowded.
Overcrowded, yes.
And do we know where this boat came from?
I do not know.
So every indication from our perspective is that this was a smuggling vessel used to smuggle migrants into the United States illegally. We haven't confirmed the nationality of the people involved, but our agents are with many of them at the hospital. And the man who we believe was the operator, agents are with them, and the suspected smuggler, but the investigation is still unfolding.